Right. Thanks a lot. Good evening, everyone. So tonight's session is requirement gathering and documentation. My name is Bolu Dukumaya. I'm a digital business analyst, a product owner, and a product designer. And I'll be taking you through um, requirements gathering. As a business analyst, or we call it elicitation, requirement elicitation. As a business analyst, this is basically what we do the entirety of the start of a project starts with this, and it's important for us to understand what this is about. And I understand that they've invited everyone, which is good. It's good for everyone to have a knowledge of this. We'll be going through um, some of these tonight, the definition of requirements, stages of requirement gathering, requirement documentation, elicitation techniques, questions that can guide requirement gathering, and some of the challenges that we might face while gathering requirements. Yes, so what's requirement gathering or elicitation? So anytime you see elicitation, requirement elicitation is the same as requirement gathering. So in simple terms, is requirement gathering, but in the fancy BA terms, it's called elicitation. So just in case you hear that word um thrown around, don't get confused. It's the same thing. So what does requirement gathering mean? Is the process of determining what your project needs to achieve and what needs to be created to make that happen. In simple terms, understanding the vision, trying to figure out the vision of the project, what is the goal of the project, what do we want to achieve at the end of this project, and how do I make that happen? So if you remember at the very start when I gave an overview of who is a business analyst, what does it entail to be a business analyst? So I said that you are the bridge between the business stakeholders and the development team. So you are that bridge, and now you need to understand the person's vision, the business stakeholder's vision, and interpret it to the development team so that they can understand. So, what you are doing in that process is called requirement gathering or elicitation. So, you are eliciting requirements, you're trying to ask questions of, okay, tell me about this vision. What do you want to achieve? How do you want us to achieve the? I mean, you don't necessarily have to ask how do you want us to achieve it, but yeah, like you are not that direct, but questions like that, you're asking questions that is inferring that because you really want to understand them and then provide solutions as well because there is a problem. So you're trying to provide solution, and you remember that the basis of a business analyst is process improvement. You are trying to improve a either a current process or create a better process um, for the one that is already on ground, or create a process that is not even there at all. So it's all about process improvement as a business analyst. So yeah, um basically that's elicitation. Kemi, your video is on just in case you don't know. All right. Sorry about that. So what are the processes? What are the processes for requirement gathering? The first thing is to identify the relevant stakeholders. Is important. I know that you guys, sorry about that. Temi just took you through um team chatter, and part of what you would do in your team chatter, you also identify who your stakeholders are because it's important to know who is who, the hierarchy. At least everybody knows that these are the relevant stakeholders for this project. So, yeah, it's important for you to identify your relevant stakeholder. Why is this important? Because it makes you go to the right persons for your requirements. There are so many people that you will deal with, but if you know the right people to speak to, you will get the requirement that you need to carry out your projects in the end. The second thing is to establish the project goal, excuse me, the project goals and objective. It's important for you to establish it very early. What is the goal of this project? What are we trying to achieve? Why is this project coming together? And you elicit requirement from stakeholders. Now that you've identified the relevant stakeholders, you've established the project goals and objectives, you go ahead and begin to ask questions. What do you need? What is this project about? Do we have an assist process? Like, what's the current process on ground? And then you start talking through how you're going to achieve the future process. Document the requirements. It's very important for every time you elicit requirements from your stakeholder, you need to document it because it's important. Don't think that you remember everything, and don't think, and another thing, another reason which you will see in the next few slides, the importance of documentary requirements, because you need to sign it off. You need to sign off and say, oh, the stakeholder needs to say, okay, I endorse this. This is what I said. And it confirm the requirements, play it back to the stakeholder and say, oh, this is what I heard you say. Is this really what you said? It's important to play it back to the stakeholders, the prioritize requirements. The way you do this is through Musco. So you want to understand which one goes first, which one goes next, because we're working iteratively in Scrum. So you want to know which one goes first, and because you want to release a minimum viable product, what that means is a product that is usable at least um within, so you can put it and say that, okay, we'll release a minimum viable product in 4 sprints or in 5 sprints or in 6 sprints. So at the end of 6 sprints, you must have a minimum viable product that you present back to the stakeholders. So you want to prioritize your requirement and say, okay, this is what we are playing back. However, because Scrum is iterative, at the end of every 2 weeks, stakeholder expect to see something at the end of every 2 weeks. So this is the reason it's important for you to prioritize your requirements and never make assumptions. As a business analyst, don't assume that this is what the stakeholder means. Ask questions, play back again and again, and be sure that both of you are on the same page so that at the end of the day, there are no issues. So I put this illustration here of how um, requirements, gathering goals, and development, the whole life cycle of how it goes. So a customer comes in, this is how the customer explained the requirement. The next tree is how the project leader understood it. The third one is how the engineer designed the product, how the programmer wrote the product, how the sales executive described it, how the project was documented, what operation installed, how the customer was built, how the help desk supported, what the customer really needed. So you can see this illustration. It's important not to assume, and it all starts from the business analyst. If you are not asking the right questions, if you are making assumptions, you can end up with something like this, and it will be very frustrating. Money is wasted. Um, customer isn't happy, and then everybody comes back at you and say, oh, this is what you said that we are supposed to develop. So it's very important for you to understand the requirements, ask the right questions, elicit the right information from the stakeholder, and so that you document the right thing and play back to the development team. So we have different stages of requirement gathering. The first thing is to understand the pain point. So when I say pain point, for every project that is brought to you, there is a reason why. So you want to understand the why. Why are we doing this? What is the reason behind it? Is it valid? Is there a workaround? Is this something that we really need to go ahead with? What is the issue? For example, a product, I mean, maybe the project that is brought to you is, oh, our customers have to go through several forms before they can actually purchase a product from us. They have to go through several screens or several forms, and we want to make the journey shorter or the user experience really shorter for our users. That's the pain point because it's not making them, and maybe it's hindering them from getting as much traffic to their website as they desire. And now they've realized that this is the pain point, this is the issue. They are not making as much sales as they are expected to make because their current process is not user friendly as it should be. It's not as user friendly as it should be. The user experience isn't very great. So what did they do? They came to you and now they are saying, okay, we want to make this process better. So you want to understand the pain point. Now that's the pain point. Not great user experience and improvement of sales. So that's what you want to attack. You have to start thinking of solutions that can meet that particular need, that particular pain point, and resolve it. So eliminate language ambiguity as much as possible. Make it simple, make it understandable for, excuse me, make it understandable for your stakeholders. Let your stakeholders understand what you're talking about as much as possible. Do not use BA jargons to speak to them. They might not understand. Make it as simple as possible, as plain as possible. Identify corner cases. So corner cases simply means so in software, like when we talk about software development, there are times that things go in the happy path. So happy path is simple. Oh, this is if we do this, this is what will happen. But there are situations whereby what if it doesn't happen that way? What if there are issues that come up? So you want to identify issues that might arise. For instance, you are saying we want to develop a really good user interface that is very attractive. And yeah, everybody will use it. Everybody that comes into the website feels really great about the user interface. However, the corner case might be what about those that have color blindness? Have you factored them in? This is not something that you will easily think about when you are developing a user interface because you are like, oh, everybody, you are not considering those that have color blindness. So those and this is like a very simple example. So things that every other person isn't thinking about as a business analyst, you need to think about the things that might not go well, the things that the outliers, the things that everybody is not thinking about in the moment. So try to cover those when you're going through requirement gathering. Then write user stories. So now that you've gathered your requirements, there's something called requirement interpretation. So you have to write the user stories and acceptance criteria, which you will be taught going forward. So you interpret your requirement because now the requirement, the vision, the raw vision has been given to you by the stakeholder. Now you have to interpret it and ensure that the development team understand what the stakeholder wants. And you have to write it so that they get a clear picture of what the stakeholder wants. Then create a definition of done. I'm sure you heard this tonight from Timmy. So yeah, there's definition of done, there's definition of ready. I wouldn't flog that because Timmy already explained what definition of done means. All right, so we have different elicitation technique. We have different elicitation techniques, and I'll be walking us through them tonight. So the first one is research. It's important for you to research, research about the product, research about who are the competitors, do a SWOT analysis, try to understand the product before even going for requirement gathering. Like you guys, you already have your project name, Mentors Kit, and I think some of your POs have started sending the project mandate to you. This is the time to start researching. Okay, what is Mentor Kit about? Like what kind of project is it? What do we want to achieve? Are there products like that out there? What are the similitude? What can I advise my stakeholder to do? And all of those things. So it's very important for you to research observation. So for instance, in a situation whereby this elicitation technique can be used in a situation whereby um there is going to be a change in process, and then you are in that environment with the people using the current process, so you are observing how they use the current process so that you can understand the areas of improvement that is to come. You can ask them questions. Oh, so when you click on this, what happens? How many hours does it take for you to be able to do this particular task using this particular system? And as the case may be, you are observing. Sometimes you observe in silence, sometimes you ask questions. So it depends on the kind of product or the kind of stakeholder that you are dealing with. Um, interview. This is one of the most common elicitation technique. Interview can be done one-on-one, and it can be done with five persons at a time. So what you're doing is you are asking questions face to face or over the phone with someone, and then you're getting response. So yeah, it's back and forth. Two people interview, like sharing views. So it's a back and forth process, asking questions and getting response is one of the most common. Another common one is workshop. Workshop um, elicitation technique is used for bigger groups. When you have a bigger group, can bring everyone in a room. So you have a big group of stakeholders, and then you want to get a requirement from all of them because all the stakeholders are important to the project. So the you want to get the requirement from every one of them at the same time. So you organize a workshop, and then everybody's in a room, and then you begin to ask them questions, their opinion, and you can have a whiteboard, you can have sticky notes. Yeah, so you can be very creative with interview, sorry, with workshop. Prototyping is basically creating mock-ups uh, or visuals that you play back to stakeholders and helps you with requirement elicitation as well. So you can play back and say, oh, this is what I think you want the website to look like based on what the information you've given to me. Is this it? And then they can say, oh no, how about this particular thing? What about this? Oh, move this around. I don't like where the header is, or move it to the bottom or whatever. So as the case may be. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So documentation. Yeah, so how do we document requirements? We can document requirements using requirement numbering. So you can number your requirements as you gather them. So you can say 001, 002, as the case may be, or you can 123, as the case may be, however you want to number. It's just for you to know how each of the requirements comes in or how relevant they are. User stories in Agile, especially Scrum, and especially on Blue Sky, you'll be documenting your requirement using user stories and acceptance criteria a whole lot because Agile is mostly document light. It isn't document heavy. So how we document our requirements is using user stories and acceptance criteria. You can document your requirement through process map because now with process map you have to do your assist process and your to be process. What does that mean? So when you come on a team, they might have a current process, and because it's process improvement that you're doing, you want to understand, okay, this is the current process and this is where we are going. So the current process is called assist and the future process is called to be. So you map out the current process and then you also map out the future process. This can be used for documentation because you can also play back to the stakeholder and say, oh, this is the current process and this is the future process. Can you sign it off? And they can either sign it off or give their feedback. Use case, yeah, use case is another way to document requirement. We have the use case diagram, we have the business case, and you can use it to document your requirement. Wireframe, we is another prototyping tool um, that you can use. So you can create wireframes to play back and document your requirement and say, oh, based on the requirement you've given to me, I created a mock-up. Could you sign it off? And they can change things. So it depends. So you need to understand the um, stakeholder that you're working with. Some stakeholder like visuals, some prefer reading through documents, like loads and loads of documents. Some prefer, oh, yeah, just give me a summary of the requirement. So you just really need to understand what kind of stakeholder you're dealing with and know the documentation process that you will use with them so that you can easily get a sign off from them. And then we have requirement catalog where you can put in all the requirements and sign it off as well. Yes, so I put together some questions that can guide you during requirement gathering. This is not cast in stone. You can be very creative with requirement gathering, but these questions are a good starter. So think about, what do I know about this feature, or what assumptions am I making about these features that I need to confirm? What does this feature need to do? What is the end result of doing this? What are the pieces of this feature? What needs to happen next? What must happen before? What if? And there are so many questions that can guide you with requirements gathering. So some of the challenges that you can face during requirements gathering is undocumented processes. So there are several organizations that do not document. For example, my first job when I was working, when I got on the job, we wanted to create a one-stop shop for all the underwriters in the organization. But unfortunately for us, we didn't have a documented assist process. So what that did was we had to go back and understand the assist process and then create a process map for the assist process. And there was really nothing for us to work with. So we had to take several steps back and understand the process, the current process. And unfortunately for us, they didn't even have a stable current process. So that was quite a challenge that we had to overcome. But yeah, so when you have undocumented processes, now the onus is on you to now document the current process so that you can create the future process. Um, Conflicting requirements. So in a situation whereby you have different stakeholders, right? You have several stakeholders that are important stakeholders, but they all want their requirements to be the one that goes. However, their requirements are conflicting and it's for the same product. It can be very frustrating to you as a business analyst, but that's not, you don't pull your hair in the meeting. You have to find a way to make it work. So, yeah, these are some of the challenges that you might face, especially during workshops, and you have different requirements coming through, and they are all conflicting. So it's yeah, this is not a very pleasant situation, but these are some of the challenges that you can face. Lack of access to end users. So sometimes you might not be able to access the end users because, especially when um now the product is done, you need to um, do your user acceptance testing and you can access the end users, or you are speaking to, like, before even getting to that point, you want to understand from the end user's perspective how they see the product, how they are using the product. You want to ask them questions so that you can provide the best solution, because at the end of the day, products are to be used by end users. You are not creating products for yourself to be used. So you need the end users' input for you to come up with a better solution. And sometimes you don't have access to them. So it can also be a challenge. Focusing on the visual aspect rather than on the functional aspect of things. Yes, some stakeholders can be very ambitious. They are just interested in the user interface, like how the website looks, rather than the user experience, how we users use this particular website. So some stakeholders are just focused on, oh, I just want the website to be appealing, but they are not thinking of the functionality of this particular website. Um, Case in point, there is a project at my workplace that the the senior stakeholder wants the icon to look like iPhone icons, but he's not thinking about the usability of it. So yeah, those are some challenges. Then communication problem. Um, yeah, it's possible that there are communication problems like assumptions, language barrier, maybe unclear vocabulary, misunderstanding between yourself and the stakeholders. And yeah, so all of these could be a challenge. However, overcoming this challenge is, like, for the undocumented process, it's important for you to take a step back and begin to document the previous processes that were there, begin to ask questions. So you are gathering requirements for the old processes. So you have to get that out of the way before you can proceed. Conflict for conflicting requirements, you need to make them understand, make all of them heard, to be honest. But what you then sell to them is priority and say, okay, I hear you all, but let us prioritize this in the order of importance. Every one of them will clamor that everything is important, but you have to make them see reasons why this is important for the end users before this. So this has to come before this. because at the end of the day, it's about the end users, not about them. Um, Lack of access to end users. What you can do is um, find a way to engage. This is where you will have to do extensive research and see how you can um, find the right people that can help out, like get a number, have a number in mind that you want to access, and see how you can push things forward with them. Also, focusing on the visual aspect, this is where your expertise coming, where you have to explain the importance of the functionality, the importance of user experience, because you are the experts. That's the reason why you've been employed. So ensure that you explain the usability, the reason for usability, the importance of it, and what it would do for the product. Then communication problem. Communication is a two-way street. Ensure that you're playing back to the stakeholder, especially for us that we are Nigerians and we have a very, very strong intonation. So sometimes we don't understand when a Caucasian is speaking. Sometimes you just have to play it back and say, oh, is this what you said? This is what I heard, like that. So these are ways to overcome these challenges. Yeah. So that's it from me for this part of the session. Any questions, please? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear you as clear as day.
Very well, loud and clear.
Oh, okay.
We
I
can
didn't
hear
hear
you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. After you have documented the requirement, do you as a BA send it to stakeholder to agree? Yes, it is. It's very important for you to send it to your stakeholder to sign off. So call it sign off. It doesn't necessarily have to be pen to paper. But yeah, you can do email, you can sign off over email. The reason why sign offs are important is in case there's a situation in future, if future proves you, future prove yourself and say, oh, there was a sign off, this is the email, this was when you signed it off, you said you were fine with this. So yeah, it's important for you. And sometimes when you send it over, you realize that, oh, you might have documented some things that you made an assumption on, or maybe you didn't properly get, or you didn't properly understand during the requirement gathering session. I mean, during elicitation. So you omitted a thing or two like that. So yeah, it's good for you to always send it back to the stakeholder and then they can give their sign off. Um, when will the mandate for the project be shared, please? Yes, so your POs will send it soon, pretty soon, or you have a meeting with them after this. So they needed you to have this meeting so that you will understand what requirement elicitation is about, and then you can start eliciting your requirement. Any questions? Any other question, guys?
At the roundabout, take the fourth exit.
Hello?
Ken?
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for that very informative presentation. My question is around the requirement elicitation as it is. While researching about this before the workshop, it was stated that there are system requirements and solutions requirements. Yeah, for as a BA person, but for analysis of what's it called, clients' problems. It was stated that the system requirement is not in the domain of business analyst. So I was wondering what exactly that is and which part of the project does it come in?
Okay. System requirements. Okay. Okay, so here is my thoughts on system requirement and solution requirement. It depends on the project that you're working on, to be honest. So it depends. There are many articles on different things. For instance, if you are preferring a solution, there are some times that you have to create a system requirement document, yeah, and especially in the waterfall side of things, it's basically stating what would the system be able to do, like how um what kind of system is this product compatible with, and all of those. I get the reason why this maybe that article said so, because it's more on the very technical side of things, to be honest. But there are situations you find yourself. It's good for you as a business analyst to have some technical knowledge about things, especially when you're working on a product. So yeah, really what we do is majorly solution based, majorly solution driven, majorly giving business solutions rather than the technicality of things, to be honest. So yeah, um system requirements is arguable that sometimes you might need to really understand the entirety of your system, but there are some technicalities to it. You might have to work with your developer if you are going to create a system requirement um document. Yeah, you might really need to work with your developer because they are the ones that know the in and out of the system, the compatibility, the kind of windows it work with, and so there are a lot of technical jargons there. But yeah, I hope I answered your question in a way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
All right. I saw Ken's and Ken, I was trying to call you, but I don't know if
I'm just going to jump on the system requirement documents, right? So, most times when you have a system requirement document is when, for instance, you are trying to, I'm going to use examples. So if you're going to be moving data from uh, um, one platform to another platform, so you could be migrating the data across um, different platforms, you might require a system document. So part of the system document or documentation is what we call a functional requirement document that lines out the functionality, how the data is going to migrate through the different source system. So that's one level of it. So you have to work with like your solution architect, and also you could work with like a technical team who would help you kind of interpret how those things will work. And then the BA will now come in and present it to the business or to the project team. So it is a little bit on the technical side, but it's not applicable to all projects. It's mostly applicable within a very technical um, development or a system build. I don't know if that answered the question.
Thank you so much, Ken.
Thank you.
I see Farouk. Farouk.
Yeah.
Hi, Bolu. Thanks for
Hi,
the
Farouk.
presentation. Really a good one and highly informative. In my head, I was just trying to paint a picture of the pathway of the requirements in the first place before it gets to elicitation. And I just wanted to, pick it up from the origin of the requirements all the way to when it gets to the BA, and then maybe when these requirements now go into sprint planning. So is it that the origin of the requirements is the end user, maybe making a complaint about the current state that the feature is in or the product is in? Or is it that the origin of the requirements will be maybe top management that have a vision of where they want, the current feature to go to, and they feel that where it is right now, it's due for a revision or it's due for an upgrade, and then they just push that requirement out there. And then from there, does it go to the product owner before coming to the BA? And then when it does get to the BA, does it now go straight from the BA into the sprint planning process? Or is there another pathway of the whole thing from origin to sprint planning?
All right, that's a very good question. It can go both ways. 1 minute. So it can go both ways. It can come from the business, it can come from the end user. The end user might raise a complaint and say, oh, something is wrong, and they want this process, or they are not enjoying this process. So for instance, take for example, if you notice WhatsApp, you realize that there are updates now and then, same as Instagram, because the thing is, users are complaining, users are saying something. Yeah, they are end users. So there was a time people were clamoring, why can't we edit on WhatsApp? Now they have the edit functionality. You can edit a message that you sent. Now they've created another update whereby you can follow channels, just like how you do on Instagram. So every product listens to feedback from their end users and use it to update their product. Also, it can come from the business and say, I don't think our process is very efficient at the moment. We need to upgrade. We need to find a better process. We need to find how to make it work better. So what do? They say, okay, we need to make this work. And then they can speak to if there's a product owner, they speak to the product owner. The product owner becomes the face of the business. So the team might never relate with the business. They'll relate with the business through through the product owner. The product owner becomes the face of the business. The product owner gives the requirement to the BA. The BA interpret the requirements as user stories and acceptance criteria, put it in the backlog, create epic features, and product backlog items for them, and then it goes to sprint planning. Yeah, basically that's the journey. I hope I answered your question.
Great,
pardon.
thanks. Yeah, it's clear. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Olusegun.
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Mm.
Though part of the question I wanted to ask you explain part of it. The first question I'm about to ask was that is it possible for the project owner to give out or suggest the system requirement to the BA? But during your explanation now, you said something towards that. Then secondly, what of pertaining to the if peradventure in a situation whereby the project owner gives this BA the system requirement and the system requirement not suitable for the project, what do you suggest that the BA should do? Thank you.
Okay, product owner, they give requirement, not system requirement, because system requirement is a bit different, a little bit different from, solution requirements altogether. If a business analyst a requirement that is not suitable, I'm just trying to play back your question so that I understand, right? If a product owner gives a business analyst a requirement that is not suitable, what should the business analyst do? Is that what you said? Is that a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second question.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, um, uh, yeah, okay. The the thing is, I'm not sure a product owner will give a business analyst um a requirement that is not suitable. However, if it happens, here's the thing. You don't just outrightly say, oh no, this is rubbish. No. Now you have to coach your product owner through the process and say, oh, I believe this will be better suited for this product, this solution that we are trying to achieve. And what do you think? Because here's the thing, as business analysts, you don't force stakeholders to accept your requirements. However, you can advise. And when you advise, bring your strong points and say, based on research, this is this. This is, if possible, throw in numbers because stakeholders love numbers. If possible, do your research. And that's why it's very important as business analysts to do your research. Oh, I think this will be better suited for this solution because based on this research, based on what the market is saying, this and this and this are the things that will work if we go this route. However, if we go this route, here are the advantage and disadvantage. So don't discard whatever it is they have said, but give them strong point on why you think it wouldn't work. Tell them the reason why it wouldn't work. Talk about, oh, this might happen in the long run if we go with this solution. And yes, so it's just really telling them what you believe will work better because at the end of the day, you are there to advise. You are not there to force requirement down their throat if you get what I mean. So it can be a very frustrating situation because some stakeholders, but as long as they sign it off, if you advise and they still do not take your advice, as long as they have signed it off, you are covered. It's not on you anymore. Now it's on them. So I hope I answered your question. It's a very
Yes.
tricky situation.
Yes.
Your yes does not look like I answered. You want them to throw it out?
No, no, no. I was just thinking of something. If peradventure the project owner uh
Product
gives
owner.
product owner rather gives the requirement and the BA is trying to suggest like that, and they refuses that this is what we need. You said that
Mm-hmm.
once it is being signed.
Mm-hmm.
But my question now is, if peradventure now they do the project and they complete the project and later it flops, and if they were tracing it, uh I believe they will trace it to the BL level. But to me,
So the product owner will take the heat first before the BA.
yes, but if it goes to the BA, won't they say it is rather better for the BA to leave the work than accepting it when he or she knows that it's going to affect the whole project? Thank you.
Mm. Yeah. So like I said, as business analyst, you're just like an advisor. I know you're a data analyst, you sign up as a data analyst, but you can't force you can't force stakeholders. It's just like working in customer service or like somebody wants to buy a house now and then you said this is the best way to go about this thing. And the person said, no, I want it my way. You really cannot force customers to take a deal, right? Like, or to have it your way. So it's important to explain to the product owner, and the product owner too has the obligation to go back to the business and play back to the business, because you can't just say, oh, cast in stone. So it's a very dicey situation, but you cannot force, and you cannot throw away the product as well and say, oh, I will not do this because it doesn't make sense for me. You have to also maybe involve your line manager at some point and say, oh, this is the situation. I've explored all this thing with this person, and this person still wants us to go ahead with the project. So it's you can't completely throw it out as a business analyst.
Thank you.
Allow me.
You've said what I want to hear. Thank you.
Allow
Sorry
me.
for
Okay.
No worries. It's a very interesting question.
Yeah, so just to buttress what Bolu said, most times that's why when you have these conversations, I keep telling people, I'm sure you picked some of the things I said yesterday, that there's no familiarity in this thing, no matter how you do this. So this kind of things, you send mails for such, so that you are getting your no mail, so you're saving your mail, so you can have future evidences for such. But don't get me wrong, don't go to your team with the mind of, oh, okay, I want to be keeping my evidence. But sometimes some of these things, it warrants you having documentations to say, oh no, I suggested this and it was taken back and all that. But also the reasons why some of these things happen, the reason some of these things happen is most organizations, when they delved into agile or something, yeah, they usually just appoint people to become POs. So they might not be experienced POs. So yes, sometimes you can have that gap. But usually, just to avoid that also, a lot of companies use people that are experienced in that particular project, or have a good technical knowledge to be a PO. A PO has to be knowledgeable about some things, depending on what it is. I only use technical knowledge because I'm just using an example of my company that does technical things. Yeah. So, but in situations like this, most times your PO, they have the right to go back and ask the stakeholders, because they're supposed to be the vision to the team. So they'll come back and tell you these things. But for your own safety, or sometimes note some of these conversations, not because you have a bad mind, but just to have evidence in future for this. And it applies a lot to QAs too. I'm sure they'll tell you guys QAs, anytime you see a bug, quickly take a screenshot, save it, so that it's not that the person would have done it correctly behind. So it would be as if you were crazy and you really saw the thing and probably it has been resolved. So just try and take evidences of things like this, just to avoid all those kind of things. But at the same time, just now to now cut off the end of you saying when the project ends, they now see that is not so suitable. So that's now the beauty of agile. By the first sprint, second sprint, by the time you're going back to the stakeholders for your review, they would have cut that thing. So you wouldn't be wasting money to the end of the project to now say this is what we've done. So that situation would have been arrested almost at the beginning of the start of the project. I don't know if you get what I mean, Shegun. So I just thought to add that. So thank you.
Yes, I understand. Thank you very much.
Thanks, allow me. Jemmy.
Yeah, just to follow up from your answer to Ken, to Shegun. And I was wondering, because one of the things that we've been taught here is that in an agile environment or methodology, when it comes to projects, there's no the responsibility for fail and the responsibility for success is borne by the team in general. So I'm wondering if there's any need for a failure to be, saddled on a PO, or is it not for the BA, the developer, the QA, and everybody to ensure that at a certain point they don't get to deliver a product that doesn't add value to the need or the objective of the organization or the business owner per se. And that's just my question because I was getting a feel that just like waterfall, the bulk stops at the project manager's desk from your answer. I may be wrong, sorry.
Oh no. Sorry that kind of that was how I came across. But no, like what I was explaining was if it was to trickle down and all of that, the first person that they will be asking question will be what happened to this product? Why is it not successful? Of course, in Agile, it's everybody, and that's why we have refinement. So your refinement sessions, everybody contributes. The developer, the QAs, the Scrum Masters, everybody, because it's the success of the team, not one person. So we fail together, we succeed together. But because Shagun was asking about when they are now tracing it down and all of that, of course, the first person, the first set of people that they are going to be asking a lot of questions will be the ADMs and the product owner. Remember that the business might not directly deal with the team. So the product owner is the face of the team, of the business. So if the product owner did not give us the good product to work with, of course, we'll go back. It's not like we'll just take it hook, line, and sinker and say, that's where advice come in. We'll go to the team. You see, like there are going to be several emails back and forth before you finally say, okay, yeah, this is what you said. Like I said, um you don't, how will I say, for as a business analyst, you don't force requirements. I mean, you don't lead them on. Also, when you are gathering requirements, you ensure that you're asking questions and they are telling you what they want. You are not making assumptions for them and you're not forcing anything down their throat and saying, oh, this must how it must be. You are advising on solutions, what's best suited, what this is the best way we can go. This is the advantage. And that's why you're coming with facts and figures. And you know, it's very rare that you'll not be able to get the buy-in of these stakeholders when you come with fact and figures. But yeah, that was the aspect I was coming from, if that makes sense. Jamie.
It does, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Ken.
I think it was to do with the question from Shegu. And I'm just going to try and touch on two sides. I'm just going to support what you've said, and which is absolutely true. From a workplace experience, so sometimes within like an agile environment, what you tend to find a lot of avenue for you to have room to improve. So there's always room for adapt and inspect. And when the requirements are being gathering, they're being gathered in phases sometimes, right? And those requirements will now be taken into sprint, signed off and approved. And as the build gets on, or the build kind of goes through the sprint, you could always come back and make amends and changes, right? In a waterfall environment, it's slightly different. So what you tend to find in a waterfall is that they tend to have stakeholders who would come together in a project governance call. And the project governance call is where the requirements would kind of trickle in. And then the business analyst will now reaffirm those requirements, and then those requirements will be gathered. And that is some of the mechanism that is being put in place to kind of control the quality of the requirements that are coming in. And also it gives everyone an opportunity to buy into it and agree that this requirement is what is needed. So sometimes in the waterfall environment, it makes it easier for the business analyst to kind of take those requirements, have the governance call, and be able to have a buy-in and everyone kind of agree. Or if there's a change, or like you could have a stakeholder who is quite adamant that a particular requirement has to come in, and sometimes it doesn't sound practical to everyone. There is what they could do like a recall back where we can go back and say and do a research on this requirement that is needed, and we'll now value and say what is the benefit to the project. Is this requirement going to improve, or is it going to significantly impact the project? So it's at that call where I think you also mentioned where numbers will be put into place, and you could say, right, for us to do this requirement, and this is how much it's going to cost. The business will now evaluate that cost, and based on that evaluation, they will now decide if is it tangible enough for us to take in this requirement, or can we put the requirement in the back foot for the future. So I think within the two parts, the business analyst still kind of stay is the stakeholders and the sometimes the project owners who kind of bring the requirements, and the business analyst is there to facilitate that process. I don't know if that helps in any way. Thanks.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, everyone. If there are no more questions, we'll just do a quick role play and for requirements elicitation. If that's okay. Any final question? Okay, so yeah, I'm going to be a business analyst, and I need a business owner or product owner. I need a volunteer to be my product owner. Okay, not you.
Okay, sorry.
I need an intern.
Sorry, I was just trying to. Everyone seems quiet.
Yeah, I know, right? That's why I need them to volunteer. Like, this will help them a lot.
We
Whereas
can do random call out.
Okay, Wale. Yeah, you want to be my product owner. Thank you. All right. The last one I did, my product owner was very wicked. Now I'm scared. Today I'm very scared of doing this because the last person was very mean to me. I'm joking, but yeah. So how this is going to work is going to be you're going to I'm going to be asking you some questions as a product owner, and then you give me what you want for your product. If that's okay, Wally. Hi, Wally. You're muted if you're speaking. Wally, can you hear me?
Wally, you are muted. You are muted.
okay, if Wale is not able to speak, I think Shegun also raised his hands after Wale. So maybe
Yeah, Shagun, you be my product owner. Okay. So
I've lowered my hand, though. I've lowered my hand, though. I leave it for Wale.
I it. I it.
I leave it for Wale.
yeah, I don't want Ken. I want an intern so that Ken is an Oga. I want an intern so that they can learn.
Sorry, I
Wale, you are
mistakenly
muted.
raised my hand.
What did you say?
I said I mistakenly raised my hand. Sorry, it's my fault.
Okay. Wale, you are muted. Your hands are raised, but you are muted. Okay. Good evening, Wale. Hi, Wale. So you're going to be the either the product owner or the business owner. Anyways, you are the owner of this product that eliciting requirement for. So good evening, Wale. Thank you so much for taking this invite on a short notice. Yeah, I just really wanted to have an idea of the project. If you could just walk me through the project mandate of this project.
Sorry. Do you mean I should just come up with any project on my mind or this particular one?
Yes. No, no, no. Do you have any particular one? You don't have any. Come up with any project.
All right, all right. I want you to work on a project that has to do with online payments, just like a payment platform whereby people will be able to make money transfer from one bank account to the other. But it's not as if it's going to be working as a normal standard bank, but just mainly online banking. And in the sense that people will be able to use the mobile app to make payments, to make cash transfers, and at the same time to pay bills like utility bills and allowances and the likes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. So it's more like an e-commerce project, if I'm not mistaken. So what you want is you want an online payment platform that allows people make money transactions, basically
Yes,
from transfers to paying bills, sending money to their loved ones, and all of that. Is that
exactly.
correct?
Yep.
Okay. So for this platform, yeah, I heard you mention mobile bank. Would there also be internet banking for this?
Yes, yes. There'll be internet banking for that.
Okay. Do you have a specific token, or is just going to be email and password? And what's going to be the security like?
And comment on that aspect, aside the email and the passcode to log into the app, there will be a medium at which there will be a two-step authentication factor, whereby that two-step authentication factor must be required at every login or at every sign in by the user in case of security.
Okay, so you mentioned two-step authentication. What does this entail? What do you want this two-step authentication to entail?
I want the two-step authentication to be the dynamics of signing in by the original user, such
Okay,
that
so
and
sorry, go on.
in the sense that the user, there will be a means whereby the user, there will be a what do I call it? There will be a page whereby, or on the sign-in page, there will be other requirements whereby maybe like a 4-digit key will be used as sign-in after the first login. Then the consecutive sign-in later will just have like 4-digit key or 5-digit key for the user to sign in. But on the first login, the user should be ensured to sign in with a two-step authentication key, which will be facilitated by the by the backend technicalities. They will be the one to issue the two-step authentication key through emailing. Yeah, yeah. I think that's it. But
Okay,
afterwards, any other consecutive login will just be with the key that will be
okay.
created by the user himself.
Okay, so you want, let me just try to understand what you said. Let me play it back to you. So for the two-step authentication, you are saying that once a user tries to sign up, right, for the first time, they enter their email, their password, then a code will be sent to them via email, right?
Yes.
So, and then they have to enter that code to be able to sign up on the app.
Yes,
Is that
successfully.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, and then afterwards, they are supposed to are they to change the digits, or they are going to be using that digit? So now what I mean is, now they've been able to sign in with the key, right? Sign up with the key. Now, do you want them to be able to change that key going forward as they consistently use their website, as they consistently use their account on the app?
Yes, yes, that's what I'm saying. That's why I said they are going to create a key after the first one that will be issued to them.
Okay.
They will have to create the consecutive one by themselves, and that one will be the one to be used in any of their login afterwards.
Okay. All right. All right. So based on the research I've done about applications like this, I know that over time users will be asked to produce their identification, like their ID. Is this something you want to consider for this particular app because of security? You want to know the people that are, like, you want to know that these people are legit, they are traceable, or you are not worried about having this kind of functionality, like
Yeah,
ID, like identification of the users?
yes, you are right. You are right. That will also be part of the functionality, but that is after the first sign up. Then
Okay.
for more verification, because signing up with the two-step authentication initially is just at the more or less, I can say, like the preliminary state, but that does not stop them from making transaction. But for them to be fully verified, they will have to do the verification using an identity card or any means of identification, but it must be related to a national document or a national identity details.
Okay, so at what stage of using the application? Because now you said that once they've signed up, they can start doing their transaction. So when do you want this
But there will be
verification
limitation
to
to the
happen?
transaction. There will be limitation to the transaction they can do for signing up at the preliminary state. For them to be able to step higher, that is when the verification aspect will come in. Maybe the transaction they can make within the first state of their registration will not be more than 10,000 naira. So for them to be able to step higher to a higher amount, that's when they will have to do the verification aspect of it.
Okay.
Because
So is
I'm
this
very
going
sure
to
that
be, all right, thank you. Is this going to be open to international audience, or is just Nigerians that can use this particular application?
it's going to be open to international audience, but the functionality for the international audience can somehow be complex. So at the preliminary state, it's going to be limited to African audience.
Okay. African audience at the start. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the UI. So, have you thought about what colors you want for the app to have?
Um, I think navy blue and white.
Okay, maybe blue and white. Okay. Do you have a logo, or this is something you would like us to create for you?
You are going to create the logo for me, then I'll have to review it if it's if it's what I want, you can go ahead with it. But when you make it done, I have to see it first before you can proceed with it, using it.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Okay. I'm making the logo. Okay. All right. Okay. Also, I wanted to ask about yeah, I don't know if you have preference with because what I would do with this requirement is I'm going to create a mock-up for you to see what it will look like. Not exactly, but just to give you a visual on what we have in mind and present it back to you. But I just wanted to ask before I go ahead with that, if you had any preference with the arrangement of the menu, or you want me to go back, create a mock-up for you and present it back.
And talking about the arrangement of the menu, I think I will have to see your own mock-up first.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. So what I'll go back to do now is I'm going to work on this requirement. I'm going to send it back to you. I'm going to schedule another meeting with yourself and your team. So, and my team as well. And then I can present the mock-up back to you and you can have a look and give your feedback and then sign off so that we can start working on development. Is that okay by you?
All right, but it depends on your timing.
Yeah, I mean, what time works for you? You are the stakeholder.
All right. Is it possible to get this done in the next 14 hours?
14 hours is not very realistic. How about next week?
Next week. Is a project that needs to be completed as soon as possible. But we can give you the extension of 4 days.
Okay. Well, that's not how this works, but yeah. Okay, yeah, I will find a workaround and I'll speak to my team and get back to you on that, and let you know how what the possibility is. But yeah, I'll reach out to you. I'll send you an email if that's okay. But I can't promise you at that timeline.
All right. All right. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Alrighty. So that's the end of the role play. Um, I can see Olusegun's hand up. Your hand has been up. I hope it's not paining you. I didn't want to stop in the middle of the role play.
What do you say, ma?
Yeah, you have a question. I say I see your hand up. I don't know if it's a question, a contribution, or a remark. I don't know.
I didn't even know that my hand is up. No, it's a mistake.
Okay.
By the hand.
All right. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Wally, for participating. I mean, you don't give people 14 days to complete, but yeah, that's okay. Some stakeholders have very unrealistic expectations, as you guys can see. But yeah, any question from anyone or any contribution? Yeah, any tea.
Good evening. Thank you. I was just going to ask a question, and maybe I'm ahead of myself here. But see, when the product owner was telling you about the requirements and all that, and you were quick to say it had to do with e-commerce and online banking, my mind was going through things like, are there regulations or legislations you will need to comply with? At what point do you start to think about things like that?
I mean, at any point, you see, I cannot remember all the questions I'm supposed to ask, right? So you always open that room and say, if I have any questions, I'll definitely come back to you. with some of them. Do you get? So sometimes during elicitation, you might not remember everything that you're supposed to ask, right?
Right.
But
Okay. And I guess that's the
definitely,
whole essence of, having
yeah,
another call. Oh, I've thought about this.
yes,
Have you thought about this? Okay.
exactly.
Thank you.
So especially in agile, you have that room to keep going back. And I mean, you can remember something tomorrow and email the stakeholder and say, "Oh, how about this?" Do you get? So
Mm.
um sometimes you might not be the person to handle compliance. You might be the person. So it depends on the project, depends on how the structure of your organization is and all of that. But any question you remember, always send it. Oh, if I have any question, is it okay for me to come back to you with that? And they say, yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. Yeah, okay.
All right.
So you
Thank
might
you.
not remember everything you want to ask because sometimes you go back there,
Yeah.
oh, I'm supposed to ask this. Oh, I forgot to ask this. Oh, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, because you're pretty
always
much
leave that
thinking
room.
on your fifth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
As
Thank
you
you.
can
Thank you
see,
very
this
much.
was so on the spot, and so I've never seen that project before. You didn't tell me before. Okay, Olusegun, I see your hand.
Yeah, thank
Sorry,
you. Um, the
sorry,
thing is, my
Olusegun.
question.
Olusegun, 1 minute. I'm so sorry to jump the queue. Because I didn't want NET's question to go off before, I just when NET asked the question, I think I perceived the question in a different way. So I want to use it to ask you again, Bolu, so you can help people. Now, if I was going to what I perceived from her question was, at what point will you even know the right questions to answer? I don't know if you can help clarify that.
Answer or ask?
To ask, rather. Ask.
At what point? Yeah, I mean, this is the beauty of when you have the project mandate before, or you have a glimpse of what the project is about before going into that meeting. It gives you the ability to do a lot of research. So you are going into that meeting with all the at least good understanding of the product, right? Because it's always good. It drives your requirements gathering session. It helps your requirement gathering session a whole lot. If I'd had the project mandate before now, is a thing that I can research. And then when I'm coming to elicitation, I'm coming with a lot of questions based on research. So you don't freestyle for requirement gathering. It's not a good thing. You don't freestyle for it. This was just a role play. So you're supposed to do good research and understand the product and know what the product is about. So you'll be able to align your questions and say, oh, these are the questions. So you can ask as many questions, but remember that be time conscious. If you say that this meeting is for 1 hour, ensure it doesn't exceed. If it can be less than an hour, great. But don't let it exceed that 1 hour that you've given to the stakeholder because time management is part of what a business analyst do. But it's very important for you to have understanding of the product before going for requirement elicitation. Allow me, I hope I answered
That's
what you
what I
wanted
wanted
me
you
to.
to actually add to it, which you have done. Thank you so much, ma'am. And I hope that clarifies for more people because some people really will think in order. How did she know how to ask this, how to ask that? So I just wanted us to go back to the fact that you were prepared before the meeting. That's assumption,
I
though.
was not prepared
No,
though.
I'm just
You
saying
know, see how the guy
assumption.
was firing me.
I said assumption that normally for elicitation, you have to have made your own market research, see how it works. If possible, say because you know that thing is about a payment plan or a payment website or something, you can even go and try out other payment websites and see how it goes and all that. I'm not saying you should go and send your money, but you see all the processes you went through. Okay, which one is relevant? So you're prepared before you even go and face the guy. So you have the right questions to ask. That was just what I wanted you to, which you have done perfectly. So thank you very much, ma'am. Please proceed. And apologies once again, Shegun. Thank you.
All right,
All right,
thanks.
man.
Thanks a lot, allow me. Yeah, Shagun.
Yeah. Anyway, during your conversation with your PO, let me put it like that. He gave you an ultimatum of 14 days, and of which as a professional BA, you know that these 14 days, you might not be able to come out with the result. Let me just put it like that. And yet you agree with him.
Oh no, I didn't. I think
You
you
said no.
misunderstood.
You stylishly agree with him.
No, I
Yes.
didn't.
No, he said 14 hours. I mean, he said within 14 hours. You said no, you can't deliver within 14 hours. Then he now said, I think 4 days rather. I think 4 days, right? If I'm not mistaken, I think 4 days or 4 days. You said okay, okay, something like that. Okay means okay. So that's what I want to clarify, because the question is if the PO gives an ultimatum for the BA to deliver whatever given to him or her, if the time frame is not suitable for that BA, and the PO wants him or her to deliver at that particular time, what should the BA do? Thank you.
Okay. So as you can see in the chat, people that they said I did not agree with him. So this
Yes,
is what
I've
I
seen it.
said.
That's why I skipped the other
Yeah.
time.
So
I've seen it.
yeah, this is what I said. I said, oh, that is not realistic. It's not possible for us to deliver in 14 days. He said, I'll give you 4 days extension. I said, I'll go back and meet with my team and send you an email. But it's not a possibility. So these are things like there are times that you meet a difficult, you don't see as a business analyst, you need to learn how to say no without saying no. You don't say no outrightly to the face of a stakeholder, but you need to learn how to say no without actually using the word no. And the stakeholder will get the message. So I had to tell him that this is not a possibility, but I'll reach out to my team and send you an email. So he already knows that, okay, I'm not saying, yes, let's shake on it. This is a deal. You did not hear me use any word like, yes, we are going to do this. I still gave my disagreement without actually using the word no. Because you don't just spit no in the faces of stakeholders, no matter how crazy their expectations are. So part of what a BA needs to learn is managing stakeholders' expectation. So when I'm sending him that email, I'm going to outline these are the reasons why we cannot complete this in this time frame. And this is the reason we need this time frame. Actually, he is a business stakeholder, not a PO, because a PO will not come to me with 14 days ultimatum because a product owner is part of the team. A product owner knows how the team works. Business stakeholders don't necessarily know how the team works. If you understand what I mean. Business stakeholders don't necessarily have sometimes they have very unrealistic expectations. The job of a business analyst, because there are times that you will not have a product owner in your team, you will be the person relating directly with the business stakeholder. The job of a business analyst is to manage stakeholder expectation as well. So yeah, you meet with difficult stakeholders, but learn how to say no without saying no. These are interview questions that a business analyst will encounter.
In other words, business analysts need to be logical sometimes.
It's not just sometimes, every time. Like you have to be diplomatic, you have to be very analytic, you have to think on your feet sometimes, you have to be creative. Many things, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I clap for you on that.
You're welcome. Yeah, just before I call on NET, I saw somebody's question. Yeah, Yinka, you said, can you record elicitation sessions with your stakeholders? The answer is yes, but always ask and let them know, oh, I would like to record this session. Is it okay by you? Don't just record elicitation sessions without first asking. the stakeholder if it's okay with them. If they say no, unfortunately, you have to write. You guys will not believe that I was typing things because it's important as a business analyst, you need to take notes as you are asking the question. The session will go very fast, it will go very quickly. Just ensure that you are taking notes in a way that you will understand. So I wrote some things even in this very, very short meeting. So yeah, you might have to write, and that's why it's important to play back. So definitely, there's things that I might have missed, and when I send the email across, you might say, "Oh, you missed this. Oh, you missed that," and all of that. That's why sign off is very important. NET, I saw your hand
Sorry,
up, and then
it was actually a legacy hand, but one thing I wanted to say earlier was just to say that, when the role play started, I actually started to look up some of the notes I took from what you've said, and it kind of puts everything in perspective that the whole essence was just trying to understand what the goal of the project was, and it was information gathering, understanding, okay, who do you want to use your platform, which is who are your stakeholder, what would they need, what would be the documents they need. So again, thank you for tying it well together.
all right. Thank you, Annie. Alex.
Hi, just a quick question. In the case that the business owner or the business owner wants to create a product that is time sensitive, perhaps it's attached to a particular season. So if they say to you, well, we really need this, product to roll out in 14 days, and you're saying, okay, well, it's not realistic, but would you now advise or give the circumstances in which something like that could be possible? Because imagine if money isn't an object and you just need a bigger team, to delegate more responsibility and make sure we can get it done in 14 days. Would that be something as a BA that you would consider, or you would just say it's just not in best practice to rush the release of a product in 14 days? Just random, question.
Yeah, I get that question. He actually said 14 hours, not 14 days. So 14 days is one sprint, which it depends on how big the project is, to be fair. So you have to be realistic as well. How big is this project? What, like, okay, yes, you are getting a big team and all of that, but how big is this project? What are the intricacies of this project? Can we deliver within 14 days? So now, because I'm not the developer, right? I'm not the developer. I'm a business analyst. I'm gathering requirement. I'm still going to take it back to my team. So what I would say is, I understand that this is where you're coming from. I need to go back to my team, have that discussion, and send you an email. It's important not to ever make promises, because if you do make a promise, it's going to come back to bite you, right? So if I say yes outrightly, I've already said, oh, yeah, definitely we can do it. We get a big team and all of that. But I'm not the one developing. If I was the one developing, I can control what will happen within the next 14 days. I can push my team, but is it possible for them to develop this product? So what I want to understand is, what are the intricacies of this project? What's this project about? What are there any compliance issues that we'll face? Is it a straightforward product that we can deliver within that time frame? Even though I know all these answers, I'll still have to go back to my team, have that discussion. Oh, here is what I think. What do you guys think? Because if I put everything together and my developers chop my eye, sorry, so let me speak English. And my developer decides that they cannot do this within 14 days, I'm back to square one. There's nothing I can do, because as a business analyst, you don't develop, because your product is still going to go through development, testing, user acceptance testing before it then goes live. So it's not just development of the product. Okay, I'm going to gather the requirements. I can work like crazy with teams and write the requirement and all of that. Um, Send it back to you for approval and all of that. Okay, we get that out of the way. The business analyst work is out of the way. Then development. Okay, all my developers, I get like 10, 15 developers. They agree to develop it. Now the QAs have to test. The QAs, they can be mean sometimes. And I don't blame them because they really need to be sure that quality assurance has been carried out on this product so that at the end of the day, it's not on them. So they will do manual testing, they will do automation on it. It takes time. They have to ensure. Sometimes they will have to do regression testing. Sometimes they will have to stress test. Sometimes they will do smoke testing before it then goes to UAT. Now QAs have approved. Users we need to test. End users we need to test it. Like you do a alpha beta testing before any product can go live. You do alpha beta testing and say, okay, I mean, as a BA, you come back, you facilitate that, or you have to do it yourself, or get people to do it and ensure that everything is fine before you then go live. And then when it goes live, if it gets broken in the live environment, your developers have to be on standby. So there's a lot of things going on, and I can't say 100% this is it. However, I can advise and say, oh, I'll definitely come back to you on that. I'll speak to my team and like that. Yeah. They will understand it as they go along now.
Yes, they will, but you pass too much information in one minute. Don't blow their head for me, please.
No, why did I say that is buzzwords really? I don't know. Alex, I hope I answered your question. Sorry if I used a lot of buzzwords.
No, that was fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right. Welcome. Bumi.
Good evening. I'll still talk about the time frame. Like when the PO said he needs the job to be delivered within 14 hours, and you said that is not possible. Don't you think the PO might speak to another BA that will deliver at a shorter time frame?
Well, I'm not afraid of that because the truth is it's really not, like I said, you can hear all the processes that it has to go through. How realistic is it to deliver in 14 hours? Do you want a product that works or a product that is wishy-washy? So those are the issues. And for his product, it can't even go live within 14 hours because there are still legacy issues. He has to get compliance. He has to sign it off on a legal ground. So there's so much involved in that his product. 14 hours is not realistic. I don't think there are any BA. No, it's not. The truth is, a BA does not deliver the project. It's a team, an entire development team. A business analyst is just a part of the development team. So, and the project is coming to an organization, not to the business analyst, if that makes sense. So, it is not, how will I explain it? So, it's not like, okay, so anyhow, the project when a business owner is coming to an organization and saying, oh, I want you guys to. So this we term these people as external stakeholders. But if it's in-house, like internal stakeholders, I mean, I might be working for an organization and the stakeholder says, oh, we want this delivered within 14 hours. The thing is, I would tell my stakeholder, the senior stakeholder, this is not realistic. It's not possible for the team. Because the truth is, sometimes we are working on 4 or 5 projects at the same time. Yes, we can make this a priority, but that time frame is not realistic because these are the issues. And it's not like just saying no, but I will outline the reasons why this is not possible. These are the things we have to go through. These are the things that this product has to go through. If you say you want your requirements ready within 14 hours, that's good by me, but I'm not the developer. I'm not the person developing the project. So we still have developers in the team. It's not the BA that makes the developer develop the work. Yeah, requirement has to be written, fine. It has to be refined by the team. The team has to understand it and say, oh, okay, this is something that makes sense to us. This is how we are going to approach it. We have that entire conversation before we even start the project. So if it's waterfall, that's another ball game entirely. It has to go through governance, it has to go through so many frameworks before it even starts development. And then imagine if it's coming to me in and I work in a waterfall environment. I cannot do that within 14 hours because even the bureaucracy, before they get to sign off, they can even throw it out and say, oh, this project cannot work for us. So there are many things. There are many things. The business analyst, however, gathers requirements, interprets requirements, and ensure that there is a delivery of these requirements, facilitate it, ensure there's deployment, post-deployment, and all of that, support the product, but not necessarily develop the product. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, it does. Thank you.
Welcome. All right. Any other question? I think Ken is also answering the question in the chat. Yeah, so any other question?
Hi, I've got a question for you. Just because I come from a waterfall environment where I'm working. So when the business analyst, is that correct? Yeah, when the business analyst goes to take or go to gather these requirements from the stakeholder or the product owner. On technical build, do you turn up alone or do you turn up with your team to get the requirement?
Mostly business analysts gather requirement alone. You don't go with
Okay.
your team. You go back to your team with the requirement when you are interpreting it. But when you are gathering requirements, you don't go with your team.
Okay. No problem. It means it's completely different from a waterfall environment. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Prep major.
People have started to call me prep major. Okay, so the thing is, because of Ken's question, I just thought to also add that the truth about all these things is in the work environment, it depends, there's peculiarity as to how those things goes. It's not a one-way street. So that's why we tell people just it's good to ask all these questions, don't get me wrong, because it broadens your perspective about it. Like today now you've learned that it's not always like that. Okay, it's like that too, and all that. So it's very good. I like all the questions coming in. But I just always want people to also just put your mind to rest, learn as much as you learn. By the time you get your job, you will still ease into that role and see what is obtainable, around you in that organization, because every organization has different ways of doing things when it comes to things like this. But then there's still a major guideline. So it's the PO2 has gone to probably a group PO or a stakeholder or a customer to get this requirement, and then now come to you, and then you and the PO and the BA, you now have these conversations. So maybe with time, by the time you start knowing the composition of a full team, yes, like and the question earlier from, I'm not sure if it was Bumi, you were scared that maybe you have 2 or 3 BAs within the team, and then maybe if you say no or something, no. Usually in a team you have just one PO, one BA, yeah. So and a PO will not, a PO that is already in this team, you are in this team, you will not leave your team and say, I want to go to charging team, or I want to go to this team to go and get another BA to come and help me do something in my team. It doesn't sit well. So, right, all those things, when you get to the work front, you see what is peculiar to your team. But in all, I think you should just take it as simple as it is. With Bolu's explanation of the fact that usually it's good to go one-on-one, ask your questions, note all these things. So if you're really prepared, you've listed all the questions, you know the right questions to ask. And whilst you're even having the conversation, more questions can pop up in your brain. You ask there and there. Then by the time you go back and you're already chewing on it, trying to write your stories, as questions are coming into your head, to be noting them down. When you have gathered like a couple of questions again, you can reach out to the PO. That's why, a very good thing about Agile is that accessibility. You can quickly chat with the person immediately. You don't even need to wait till the next day, because your PO might even be in the same sitting area as you. Yeah, say for example, you go in maybe once or twice a week or something, or even if it's on Teams or whichever you use in your organization, you just chat to PO, hi, okay, just a follow up on our earlier discussion, blah, 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 blah. Please, can we, blah, 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 you ask your question, they respond to you. So that's what in Agile we say collaboration, constant communication, and all that. So just chill, you'll see how this process goes. You have that rapport, but in all, also prepare your mind. Sometimes you have difficult stakeholders. How about if you're chatting the person and the person is not responding? How about if you're so a lot of things will come up, but just take chill pills. You find the best way to communicate with your stakeholders. Anybody that knows me in a short while will know that if you drop a chat and 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I've not responded to you, you better call me. If I don't now pick, you know that yes, I'm really not able to pick. Say, for example, I think a couple of people called me today while I was facilitating our team's meeting. You know, I couldn't pick. No matter what you do, I wouldn't have picked at that time. But if you probably call me right now, I'm likely going to pick because I'm not even the one facilitating the session. So to an extent, just know your stakeholders, know what they like. Some stakeholders, they like long. I think Paulo mentioned it earlier. Some people say, just give me summary. Like the biggest boys on the top. They don't have time for all your jargons. Just give me some. So all these things depend. You find out as you are going, but you just do your best to even understand how to elicitate requirements. Yeah, I just thought to add that so that we can start wrapping up. Bolu, your time is going. Thank you.
Thank you, allow me. Me.
Yeah, thanks, Bolu. Thanks, allow me. I think some of the particular question I was going to ask, I think you made some statement and answered it. But all the same, I'll just state it here. I was going to ask, what is the value of ensuring that you have your stakeholders mapping pinned down properly before you start elicitation for requirements? My reason for asking is because at some point it looks as if we were just going to be only going to be talking to the PO and getting information concerning delivering a product just from the PO. Is that always the case, or is there a situation where it's a wider range of gathering requirements rather than just stopping in the PO who wants to deliver a product? Thank you.
That's a very, very brilliant question. I mean, very, very brilliant. Yeah, for the sake of Blue Sky, you have a product owner that you'll be talking to. The reason why it's important for you to have your stakeholder mapped, correctly mapped, is because there are situations whereby you will have several stakeholders on a project. Some of them are of very high importance. Some of them are not as important. Some of them are like low influence, low impact. If you don't map out your stakeholders and you are talking to low impact, low influence stakeholder, you wouldn't get much out of them. But if you are talking to high impact, high influence stakeholder, you know that this person is 100% interested in this project and will give me their time, they'll give me the responses I need. So it's not always in every situation. Like I said, it's not every organization whereby you have a product owner. Like where I work, I don't have a product owner. I speak directly to the stakeholders. So there are situations whereby you will speak directly to the business. There's no stakeholder, you'll be the one. The B is speaking directly. There are times that even beyond the stakeholder, you will speak to a wider beyond the product owner, you might need to speak to a wider range of stakeholders as well. So it depends on the organization, it depends on the project you are working on, as the case may be. So it differs from organization to organization. But for the sake of Blue Sky, yeah, we are making it easy so that it's not very complicated, because you guys want to gain 3 years experience in 3 months and it's a lot. So imagine all of those confusion. But yeah, you might have situations whereby it's just product owner you'll be speaking to, and you might have situations whereby you speak to a wider range of stakeholders, and your project mapping comes very handy in situations like that.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right. Any other question? Or call it a night. 5 minutes past 11.
It's past 12 in my own area.
Oh wow, Europe people. Thank you for staying on the call. That's a lot of sacrifice.
They are learning.
Yeah.
Thank you
All
for
right.
the presentation.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you too for